Welcome, everybody, to the 6 p.m. City Council meeting of July 30th, 2019. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present. I've asked Vice Chair Chaburka to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Great, and I have the honor of introducing some folks from Troop 99 that are going to come up and do the pledge for us. Just right there at the mic would be great.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Repeat after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. So we're here from Troop 99 to learn a bit more about our community, to work towards the citizenship and the community merit badge, so we can learn more about Ogden and the way it works, so then we can eventually work towards our Eagles. So that's what we're here for.
What about your name?
I'm Ryland Cheshire, and this is Braden Reeves, our senior patrol leader.
Thank you.
Braden, it should go with noting. Did you say Braden? Is it Braden? Yeah. I just want to mention, I like the camo cast.
There's a couple that got away from behind the post.
Yeah, they're hiding back there. You're
that
right.
we ought to probably recognize also.
Come on up.
The rest of you scouts that are sitting there on your laurels, come on up and tell us who you are.
They thought they got out of that.
Yeah.
I'm Spencer Reeves, and we're here to do our citizenship merit badges.
And I'm Ben Lawrence, and I'm also here to do my citizenship merit badge.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
It's worth noting that camouflage is the Nadolski family's favorite color, second only to purple. Okay. Someone's raising you right. Good job. Okay, please consider joining us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Before we get started, we'll just mention that we are joined this evening by Commissioner Scaddy, Planning Commissioner, here on other business, but is no stranger to these chambers. In addition to Angel Castillo, who's a Planning Commissioner who's often with us. But we're also blessed with former council member Susie Van Hooser. There you are. Welcome. Good to see you here again.
And her husband, Dwayne.
And Dwayne. who prefers not to be recognized. Welcome back to the chambers. It's good to have you guys. Okay, we have a crowded chamber tonight because we have some recognitions to give, starting with recognizing Weber State student athlete Nathan Donovan for his All-American performance in the discus at the NCAA Championships. This is going to be read by Councilmember Bart Blair.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have the opportunity and the honor of reading this to highlight the year and career Nathan had at Weber State. And it reads, the Ogden City Council and Mayor proudly recognize 2019 Weber State track athlete Nathan Donovan for providing invaluable contributions to the Ogden community. In his final year at Weber State, Nathan Donovan made history. At the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, Nathan finished 10th in the discus, which earned him second-team All-America honors. Nathan is the first track athlete in school history to earn All-America honors in the discus. Nathan won the Big Sky Championship in both the discus and the hammer throw, becoming the first Wildcat to win both events in the same season. He finished his career as the record holder for the discus at Weber State University. Nathan also earned all Big Sky academic all-conference honors in curriculum and instruction. We are proud of the manner in which Nathan has represented our city. We appreciate his hard work and dedication to Weber State and to Ogden, and wish him the very best in his future endeavors. Nathan Donovan.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congrats. Thank you. Congratulations, Nathan.
Thanks, Nate.
You said everybody's hands.
And
Congrats.
Nathan, you can have whoever you want to picture, coaches and stuff, bring them all up. We'll take pictures for you. Let me get your
We came to you.
We've done this before.
Yeah. Hey, I'm ready to.
Now look at here.
Do we want to bring his coach up? Do you want to?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the coaches.
Let's bring his coaches up.
Yeah, please.
Could have done it without the coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
She's the throws coach.
yeah.
All right, council members, find a window. If you can't see me, I can't see you. There you go. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Awesome. Hey, Nathan. Nope. Do you want to say a few words? We'd love to hear from you.
Let me out of here.
Well, I don't have too much to say. I wasn't prepared, but it's just been a really fun experience coming to Ogden from Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's been a really great city to me. I've had a lot of great experiences and just appreciate all the opportunities that I've had at Weber State since coming. So just thank you. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty impressive for having not been prepared. You should consider, maybe consider politics. Okay, next recognition is for Tawny Moore. Recognizing Weber State student athlete Tawny Moore for her All-American performance in the 100-meter hurdles at the NCAA championships. This is going to be read by Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, thank you, Chair Nadolski. It's an honor for me to read this. The Ogden City Council and Mayor proudly recognize 2019 Weber State track athlete Tawny Moore for providing invaluable contributions to the Ogden community. In her final race as a Wildcat, Tawny Moore continued to rewrite the record books. At the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, she finished 11th place in the women's 100-meter hurdles, which earned her second team All-American honors. She is the first Weber State track athlete to earn All-American honors in the hurdles. Tawny finishes her career as a 4-time Big Sky champion, holds 2 school records, and ranks in the top 10 in 2 other events. Tawny also earned Big Sky Academic All-Conference honors, graduated with a master's degree in professional communication in April 2019, and was named a recipient of the Big Sky Conference Scholar Athlete Award. We are proud of the manner in which Tawny has represented Ogden City. She has unified our residents through her work ethic, dedication, and consistent success. We wish her the best in her future endeavors. Presented this 30th day of July, 2019.
There you go. Thanks, Tom. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Is anyone here with you? Okay,
Bring them up. Come on up.
Oh, they want to take the picture.
Bring them all up.
Everybody up.
Just hand Brandon your phone. He'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look.
Ralph's got you covered.
Right to work.
Ralph's got
John's
you.
got it.
Okay, everybody look in here. There you go, Lucy. There you go. Okay. Here, 1.
Some coaches.
You want the
Now
coaches?
the coaches.
Yeah, we got
Straight
a
it
coach
up.
or two.
You're tall. 1, 2, 3.
You can stand it.
Great.
We'll have her tell us.
Amazing. If she doesn't want to brag about it, we can do it for you.
I guess I need to talk about it. I now hold the Big Sky Conference record in the 100-meter hurdles. I ran a 13:03, and I think I broke it 3 or 4 different times this year. So just consistently dropped my time. So, yeah. Born and raised here, and well, just right outside of Ogden in Marriott Slaterville, and I've loved this community, and I've loved being a Weber State athlete, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tommy. Congratulations. That's impressive, Tawny. Congratulations. Good job. We're proud of our Wildcats here. Okay, next item for recognition is Ogden Pioneer Heritage Foundation, recognizing the Heritage Foundation for 85 years of Pioneer Days. This will be read by Councilmember Stevens.
Thanks, Chair. Tonight we have Alan Hall, the chair of the Heritage Foundation and also the Pioneers Committee. We have Desiree Cooper Larson. She's the executive director. I think we have a queen in the audience, don't we? Okay, we appreciate that. I tried to talk them out of a purple shirt, but I wasn't successful. But I wore the white one. So, Ogden City Council and Mayor proudly recognize Ogden Pioneer Days Foundation and Ogden Pioneer Days Committee for providing invaluable contributions to the Ogden community. The Ogden Pioneer Heritage Foundation and the Ogden Pioneer Days Committee continues to bolster the spirit of the greater Ogden community through its annual Pioneer Day celebration. Formerly, Ogden Mayor Harm Perry organized the first Pioneer Day celebration in 1934. And for 85 years, the tradition has carried on and continues to honor the strength of our community. Each year since its inception in 2003, the foundation has provided the greater Ogden area with concerts, art strolls, parades, and the top 5 PRCA rodeo with induction into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. And that is a great tribute to our organization and to the individuals who are putting on this production. That is not handed out casually. So it's a great honor to be part of that Hall of Fame. It doesn't say that here, but I had to add that in. We thank the many volunteers who spend countless hours in making Ogden Pioneer Days what it is today. We appreciate the efforts of Chairman Alan Hall, Ogden Pioneer Days Committee Executive Director Desiree Cooper Larson, Executive Administrator and Secretary Jackie Belknap, and all the members of the Ogden Pioneer Days Committee. After 85 years, the Ogden Pioneer Days is a tradition that has withstood the test of time. Presented this 30th day of July 2019.
Appreciate all you guys do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. How are you? Always good.
How are you?
Thanks for working for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Again.
Thank you and congratulations. I saw the night you were
We witnessed history.
That's true.
Can't get rid of them,
Thank you,
can you?
Ray.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Short people in the front.
Oh, we need our blocks. Walk over there.
No, it's a big house.
It's called getting in the picture.
This is in the norms.
Yeah.
This is allowed.
Right, yeah, we're gonna tiptoe it.
Yeah. I'll hike it up.
Can you see us, Brandon?
Scoot if you want to stand.
Wait, do you wanna stand on part of this one, Rich? Come on in.
It's hard to fit all those hats in one frame.
There we go.
Good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Go for it, dude.
Go for it, dude.
Doug, I can't see you go that way a little bit.
Can't go much or I'll fall over.
Doug, go too far, Doug. We'll all fall down.
Great.
So, remember that. Take my block and go.
Yeah.
At least we get to move around a little bit tonight.
That's a fancy dress.
Just like me.
I'm going to pass some goodies out. We've got some goodies for you.
Ooh. I had no idea we were going to get presents.
They're under 15.
Do you want to come next year too, Alan?
Yeah.
So, not to delay the meeting, as these wonderful gifts are handed out to you to recall this wonderful event for us tonight. I want to have Cassidy Jones stand next to me because number one, she's beautiful, isn't she? She's Miss Rodeo Utah for 2019. And she'll participate in 2020 in Las Vegas for the Miss Rodeo America competition. We're very pleased that she's won. She's a wonderful cowgirl, and she represents Ogden and the state of Utah very well. Cassidy, do you want to say anything? She's going to be doing a lot of this, so I'm just going to have her say something extemporaneous. You okay?
Yeah, I can do
There,
that.
have it. Go at it. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you. My dream of being Miss Rodeo Utah would not have happened without Ogden Pioneer Days and the tradition that's behind it and the wonderful communities and then you guys who are all behind it. It is a tradition that has been around for 85 years and it couldn't have happened without you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice job, Cassidy. On behalf of our trustees, our wonderful volunteers, all of those who make this happen over the last 85 years, and those who have preceded us, we thank you for this wonderful honor, this recognition. We're here about making Ogden look better every day with the rodeo, and it's the largest event that we have, I believe, Mayor, in northern Utah. So there are literally almost 100,000 people that are involved in all the activities that we put on. And Des, who really has made sure that the rodeo is in the top 5 in the United States, is the reason behind it. So my job is to make sure she's got all the money she wants, that we're in the black. I want you to know, as a nonprofit, we're in the black every year because of our great sponsors, our great donors, our fans, those who come to the rodeo and make this possible. So we're here to make this one of the great events here in Ogden every summer. And we, again, thank you for this wonderful honor.
We do. And we thank all our volunteers. Some of them are here tonight that spend countless hours giving of their time. But we want you to know that we provide something for families, and it's a family event for everyone to bring their family and make a tradition to come to Ogden every year from the 19th to the 24th. And it's a clean, family, fun environment. And so we are very proud of what we do and everything that we do all month long. We also have the Utah Cowboy Hall of Fame. That is something very unique to this city, not just the rodeo or the parades that we put on, but we do a lot. We're very diverse in what we do. But we welcome you all to continue the tradition with your families to come to Ogden Pioneer Days every year, and it's only going to get bigger and better.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
How I got involved with this group, I kind of question my insane procedure at the present time. I was working at ZCMI, and I thought, well, I want to get involved with the group. So I called Wincovio, and I says, how can I help you? And he called back, and he says, I'm going to put you over to the parade. I said, okay. And then I hung up, and I says, gosh, what did I do? But it was a great experience. We had it for 7 years, and it was wonderful. To think about it, in 1934, in the height of the Great Depression, a summer tradition had begun and has lasted for 85 years. Not many communities can say that. The former Harm Perry and community leaders launched the celebration to lift the spirits of the northern Utah families, a tradition that has been carried on even into today as the Ogden Pioneer Days. In the beginning, the celebration only lasted 3 days. Today, we have 5 days plus many activities that are going on that we can see. At the start of the Ogden Pioneer Days, there were 3 objectives that Harm Perry and those community leaders had. Number 1, honoring the pioneers and those who have come before us. Number 2, bringing communities together. And number 3, adding a spirit to the community. Those same 3 principles exist today in the Ogden Pioneer Days. And it hasn't deviated one iota. Those are eternal values. They're not just values that are put on paper. They are eternal values that they believe in and has been going on for 85 years. This has been going on for 8 decades since the inauguration of this great event, and it has changed over the years. The Ogden Pioneer Days takes us back to the roots and where we begin and where we are, but it also takes us back to the freedom of this great country that we reside in, and also the untamed West, which it was. It was an untamed West. The Ogden Pioneer Days is a tradition that has withstood the test of time. And that's the beauty of the Ogden Pioneer. So, Alan, I thank you for that. Desiree and all the committee members, I know exactly what those committee members go through. I was in the office one afternoon, and a guy was complaining. He says, I bet those guys are paid millions of dollars, a lot of dollars to participate in this. And I says, I run the parade. Let me write on a piece of paper how much I get paid. And I wrote down 0 and handed it to him. And I says, open it up. And he says, 0? I says, yes, 0. The people that are on this committee and the volunteers love this celebration. And that's what makes Ogden Pioneer Days different. And I thank you for that.
Well said, Councilmember Stevens. Thank you. Appreciate the work you do on the committee as well. And
it took me 7 years to get this white shirt, so I'm going to wear it. Yeah. So,
and 12 terms on the council, but he's got it now. Thanks everybody for being here. 12 terms. Yeah. That wasn't a slip. It was on purpose. Yeah. Thanks, Doug. Good job, bud.
Okay.
Okay. The next item on our agenda to celebrate today is the Pride Week proclamation. Councilmember White will be reading our joint proclamation declaring July 27th through August 4th as Pride Week in Ogden City.
Thanks, Chair Nadolski. I will start off with a quick story. When I got out here about 25 years ago, my then boss was very worried that an openly gay woman in Utah probably wouldn't have any friends. And it's organizations like Ogden Pride and other organizations that have been around for a really long time made it more comfortable to be out here. And so it's my honor to read this tonight. So this is a joint proclamation declaring July 27th to August 4th, 2019, Ogden Pride Week in Ogden City. Whereas the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, and other LGBTQ plus communities of Ogden contribute to the vibrant culture and rich diversity of our city. Their contributions to the arts, education, and social advocacy, combined with the contributions of everyone in our diverse community, make Ogden a better place. I agree. And whereas in the 1950s and 60s, homosexuality was illegal in 49 states, and members of the LGBTQ plus community were victims of violence, harassment, and discrimination, and whereas the root of pride celebrations everywhere stem from the Stonewall riots that began on June 28, 1969. Police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay club in New York City, which sparked a violent protest against discrimination that lasted 6 days. The Stonewall riots were the tipping point for gay rights movements, not just in the United States, but around the world. And whereas, despite significant progress since the Stonewall riots, the LGBTQ plus community still faces discrimination. Ogden City is committed to treating all people equally, fairly, and with respect. In 2011, the city adopted an ordinance making it unlawful to discriminate in Ogden based on sexual orientation and gender identity for housing and employment. The city also utilizes the Diversity Commission as a resource to ensure that all feel welcome in Ogden. And whereas the Ogden Pride organization has supported the LGBTQ plus community by working to build and strengthen inclusivity since 2014. Ogden Pride has touched countless lives by defending and protecting basic human rights, life, liberty, and freedom from violence and intimidation. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim July 27th to August 4th, 2019 as Ogden Pride Week in Ogden City. We encourage residents, schools, businesses, and community groups to take advantage of Ogden Pride Week as an opportunity to learn, listen, love, and provide a safe and respectful environment for everyone. We believe in defending human rights and appreciate the significant efforts of Ogden Pride, including organizing and administering the Ogden Pride Festival. With that, I declare that we approve the joint proclamation.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember White, seconded by Councilmember Blair to approve the joint proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
And Harrison.
Joined by Harrison Spindlove.
I actually formally resigned today, so he's going to represent Ogden Pride.
Oh, okay, well.
This is from Project Rainbow, supporting Ogden Pride.
Nice.
Sure you see these around the city, but we want to give you guys your own flag.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Harrison.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll hold this one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you guys want to hold this for the flag,
Oh, yeah,
for the
maybe
picture?
hold that, yeah.
I
I'm
gotta
gonna step
get
on
the
this
flag.
pole. There you go.
I know.
Oh, no more.
Can you see us, Brandon?
Yes, yeah. You're good. 1, 2, 3.
I get emotional because I'm a transplant Ogdenite, but this is my home. And as a proud trans man, I've never felt more at home here in Ogden in all my years. And though I face my own struggles, we have an amazing community that embraces diversity and a beautiful place to say we belong. And we have been planning an amazing event that is turned into 6 for the next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I welcome all of you out to our multiple events that we have. While we are not just a festival anymore, we've gone from a small little festival of just a couple hundred people to this year we have an estimated 7,000 potential attendants. And it's overwhelming when you have a small little board, but it's been amazing watching the work that we've done. The biggest announcement the last couple of months is in November, we announced that we will have an Ogden Pride Center. We're working towards building a home for our LGBTQ family. And just recently, we have launched our second program after taking over the Ogden Outreach Program and bringing those kids a home that they can continue to flourish in. We've also realized that our needs in the community are for our transgender and non-conforming members. So we've just launched Stars in Action. Stars in Action represents synergetic trans activists, resources, and support that'll help those community members who are reaching out to us saying, where can I go? What can I get? Where do I need to be? So we hope to continue to flourish and continue to build our programs while we build a home here in Ogden. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do have friends.
You do have friends. I know.
Yeah.
And there was a comment in the recognition of the proclamation, the resolution. He said, "I agree." Well, we all agreed. You know, we all voted on that. There are 8 elected officials in Ogden, and all 8 of us support that, and we support you. So we appreciate you guys being here today. But we hope on the days that you're not here, that you know and everybody else knows that we love you. We don't just support you, we love you here. Okay? And this is a joint proclamation of the council and of the mayor. So if anybody else has comments, including the mayor, on this item, please feel free.
Go for it.
I would just ditto those comments. And we have family members that are involved in a lot of the help and the outreach, and the safe places that you provide for people to come and feel like they're included and a part of something are really important, as those are some really difficult things to be faced with, certainly when you're young. It was mentioned we have one of the most diverse communities, if not along the Wasatch Front. That's something I think we're all very proud of, and I'd echo the welcome and the gratitude for the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up. I think we do a great job of diversity and really trying to educate and include everyone. And sometimes we have a miss, but we learn from it, and it has been very rewarding to be sitting up here with other members within the community, leaders within the community that support me personally and support our community. And without some of the education that goes on and being at the table and being open and out, people don't understand. And so I applaud you for doing what you do and the work that you do, because there are people within our community that need the education. So thank you very much for doing that. And I echo both the mayor and the chair's comments. They're very supportive. So if you guys have issues, let us know.
Thanks, Councilmember White. Anyone else before we move on?
And thank you for the flag.
Yeah. Yes. Put it right next to the one that's already hanging on my house. I wish.
Yeah.
So for all those times where we can't be there with somebody who's having a hard time with themselves, sometimes there's a lot of people in Ogden that struggle to love themselves each day. We can't always be there, the 8 of us, to tell them that we love them and support them, give them a hug, but we hope that this proclamation tonight is a helpful reminder in that way. Okay, the next item on our agenda is Lifelong Learning Week proclamation. A joint proclamation declaring August 12th to 16th as Lifelong Learning Week in Ogden, and this will be read by Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you, Chair Nadolski. I appreciate the opportunity to read this proclamation declaring August 12th through the 16th, 2019 Lifelong Learning Week in Ogden City. Whereas Ogden City continues to change and evolve, continued learning is of the utmost importance. Learning is not limited to the classroom, but it is a continuous process throughout our lives. Continuing education and community engagement are crucial to the growth and development of Ogden. And whereas lifelong learning is important for all ages, it enhances personal enrichment, self-improvement, and professional development. Lifelong learning improves the lives of our residents and empowers our community. And whereas, as a community, it is crucial that we never stop learning and growing, lifelong learning enhances our understanding and provides opportunities for community engagement. It is important for citizens of all ages to stay engaged with what is happening in the city. This gives individuals a sense of fulfillment and purpose. And whereas Weber State University's lifelong learning program opens educational opportunities to members of the Ogden community, through community education courses, individuals have access to a variety of information and ideas. And whereas Ogden Weber Technical College continuing education program provides members of the community opportunities to increase their knowledge, learn new skills, and stay up to date on the latest technology. And whereas Ogden City encourages continued learning for all ages, this will enable members of our community to attain their goals and reach their full potential. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim August 12th through the 16th, 2019 Lifelong Learning Week in Ogden City. We encourage residents, schools, businesses, and community groups to recognize the importance of continued learning. We appreciate the efforts of Weber State University, Ogden Weber Technical College, and other institutions and organizations that encourage continuing education and community engagement throughout our community. And with that, Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve this joint proclamation.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, seconded by Councilmember White to approve this joint proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Okay. We have a few representatives from Weber State and a representative from the Ogden Weber State College, President Taggart and Dr. Bruce Davis. If you please come up here and get this plaque, and this is a good time to talk. And we'd love to get some pictures and get a few words from you, please.
Thank you.
Pictures.
First. I'm gonna do it casual.
Faces?
Yeah.
You're worried I'm going to sit down.
Council members and mayor, thank you for this proclamation. We are so honored to be associated with a great city that is committed to continuing education. I think Ogden has always been successful because we've had a population that has always focused on having high skills, being hard workers and being innovative. Whether it was the railroad or if it was transportation or aerospace or now it's information technology, Ogden has always had a mission to have a prosperous community by having a well-educated and a highly skilled community. And it's just an honor to be part of this community, and I appreciate your support. The support that you've given us at the Tech College goes beyond just a proclamation. The city has partnered with the Tech College and with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in developing a business academy for Hispanic Latino business leaders. We have now completed 4 cycles of that, and it is the largest business academy. They do it across the state, but the Ogden Academy is the largest and the most successful because of the commitment of the city and the community to help everyone prosper. So thank you.
Mayor, Council, it's a pleasure to be here. It's interesting to go to a different kind of city council meeting than what I'm used to in Layton. My name is Bruce Davis. I'm the Dean of Online and Continuing Education at Weber State University. I'd like to introduce Brian Steckline, our Associate Dean. He's kind of shy and sitting in the back. And we greatly appreciate this recognition. We're very committed to lifelong learning. At Weber State, you may well know that we opened a Community Education and Outreach Center on 26th and Monroe. And much of what we do there is outreach to the community, lifelong learning, particularly providing skills for underserved parts of our community. And Councilman Luis Lopez actually is the director of that center and has done a wonderful job bringing us to the point where we are now, and we have ambitions to do much more. Again, on behalf of Weber State, thank you for this honor. Encourage you to never stop learning. Thank you, and go Wildcats. Thank you.
Chair, just a quick comment. I find it interesting in our community, two organizations that actually work together and partner together, and I think that that's pretty awesome. You can even go to school at one and get credits at the other. So,
Right.
I know.
I think Councilmember Stevens said it when it was the people that make the rodeo what it is. It's the people that make Ogden what it is, including them. Thanks, you guys, for being here.
Chair Nadolski?
Yeah.
If I just want to echo Dr. Bruce's recognition of the Associate Dean Brian Steckline. He's my boss. So I appreciate him being here and for all the support. We really have a large variety of opportunities for the community at that center. We offer an upwards of 70 classes of different types every semester here and in Davis County. So work very hard for that every day. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luis, for everything you're doing. And you're right, there are a lot of opportunities, including opportunities now that your boss is here for us to share some. No, that's in a closed session meeting. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I was really glad that he didn't recuse himself from this one. Yeah,
Sorry, did you have a comment to make? Sorry.
Yeah, that was all it was. I was just glad you didn't recuse yourself. That would have indicated maybe you weren't in harmony with.
We do, by the way, in all seriousness, thank you for sharing Luis Lopez with us. He's a gem, both in the Community Education Center, but also in the council chambers.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're going to owe me for that one.
What?
You're going to owe me for that one? No. Okay, next item on our agenda, common consent, where we will be considering setting the public hearing for arts grants proposals, as well as adopting a resolution that amends our council rules and norms.
Chair, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the two items listed under common consent.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Jaburka, to adopt the items of common consent. This is a roll call vote.
I think it's just a
It's a roll call. It's just a vote. It is. It's a
It
resolution.
is.
Oh, okay.
Checked it out during the meeting. I saw him.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chaburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye. That passes. And I think I'll point out, this is probably the first time ever and the last time ever that the council was one step ahead of our recorder. No? I think so. It's okay. It's Tuesday. It's nap time. Okay. All right. Next item on our agenda is public hearings. First item is street vacation, Center Avenue between 1610 to 1619 South. Mr. Montgomery.
There we go. Mr. Chair and members of the council, this is a petition that had been filed by Fresenius Medical Care regarding a portion of Center Avenue to be vacated. Presently, Center Avenue is a street that does not continue on. It's a small street. Portions of it have been vacated in the past. And this request is to vacate from 1610 Center to 1619 Gibson, which is a property that goes all the way through to Gibson Avenue, the 49.5-foot wide right-of-way. Fresenius desires to have this vacation take place so that they can be able to control the properties as they expand and need to meet the needs of their development.
Hey, Greg, before you go on, and
Yeah.
it shows in that too, there's a portion that isn't vacated. Is that supposed to be contiguous?
That's just
the way it is.
the way it's vacated. It's just
Okay.
slipped there in the graphics. So this would continue on from that red and extend the yellow. So it would be a continuous vacation. Red is what has been vacated in the past. Yellow is what's being requested. And the blue hashed areas are properties owned by Fresenius. So you can see they own both sides of the right-of-way where Center Avenue is. The vacation would only go to the properties where they own on both sides. As you can see, there's a property to the south owned by a private individual. So this would not vacate that area. And this would still allow them access on that public street. But you can see the properties that Fresenius has been acquiring.
That resident voiced his concern, did he?
He wanted to make sure, yes, that he had access, and this wasn't going to be closing off his access to that back part of his lot.
Okay.
And so it was made clear to him that no, this would not go beyond his north property line. As the Planning Commission looked at this, they have to find that there's good cause for the street vacation. And in their determination, they looked at the fact that Fresenius is a major employer in the area, and as they've expanded and trying to meet their needs, that they surround that portion of Center Avenue and to allow their properties to meet their expansion growth, that the street does not serve any real function to the public because it dead ends into their properties. And as they acquire more properties, that again makes the reason why the street is not needed. Also, one of the things that was pointed out is there is a main sewer line that runs through Center Avenue, and that easement would still need to be retained. Again, that is what has happened in the past when pieces have been vacated. Fresenius is well aware of that line running through their property, and they have respected that easement that runs through there. And with this vacation, an easement would then be recorded on this portion also. As the commission looked at this, and as Councilman Stevens made mention of the one citizen that spoke about it, the commission recommends 6-0 to approve the street vacation, subject to that utility line easement, ensuring that no one's being adversely impacted by that and no rights of access are being denied by the street vacation. Any questions you may have?
Any more questions for Greg? Summed it up masterfully as always, Greg. Thank you.
Chair?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt proposed ordinance
We
2000.
have a public hearing. We have.
Oh, public hearing.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councilmember Heyer, for the reminder. And thank you for your eagerness, Luis. This is a public hearing, so if you wish to address the council on this item, please come to the mic, state your name, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Alan Jones, and I just have a quick question. Is Forensis paying us, Ogden City, any money for this little section of road, being that in theory the Ogden City does own it, and Forensis is that business which is going to benefit for the use of that? Are they going to pay us any money for it?
Thank you, Alan. We'll finish public comment, and then we'll get back to you, get you an answer. Okay. Ralph.
I can put this down now. You sure? Yeah.
Ralph Price. Yes, Agape Outreach. I'd like to speak in favor of that because we have a few people that within inside our community that use that area in a negative way. And I would just like to see that that be more of a prosperous thing that reflects the values, the morals, and the aspects that we have and the ideas that we have for Ogden City. So as an advocate that goes out and has a lot of time working with people that are access to that area and other areas that are kind of abandoned or kind of hidden away, I think that we brought light to those type of situations. We're bringing light to these type of individuals that we work with. And we'll have a chance to be able to maybe turn that the idea of that being a spot where they can go and do certain things as a negative. That it is part of Ogden City. It is something that we respect. It is something that we look to have as part of our community, our neighborhoods, and I would like to just speak up in favor of that being done so that this can be a business fair that's going for Ogden City.
Thank you, Ralph. Anyone else care to address the council on this item? Seeing none, we'll take a motion, and then we'll get answers for Mr. Jones.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing on this item.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember White to close the public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Montgomery, can you get a question to Mr. Jones? All right.
Well, I'm going to try, and I'm going to go to defer to Gary also. In my understanding with Center Avenue, which is different than most street vacations, this was not dedicated by the developer. Normally when a street is dedicated by a developer, when a vacation takes place, because the city never acquired it or purchased it, when it's vacated, it's just given to the adjacent property owners without any fee because of the way it was done. When Center Street or Center Avenue was dedicated this way, it was not part of a subdivision, it was a city acquisition. And my understanding is that there is a fair market value that takes place in the deposition of this type of right-of-way. I'd have to defer to Gary any further than that, but that's my understanding.
That is the general rule. It's on. So that is the general rule, but are you saying that there was value given in this case?
I am not sure.
Okay. The general rule, of course, is that it goes to the two sides, property owners. And if there's a difference in the way we took it, if we took it in fee simple title, then we could sell it. But I don't know what the example is in this case.
And I'm not sure what has happened in the past on those other sections.
How is the conveyance being treated?
Generally, it's by the ordinance you're passing, that being recorded, giving our right of ownership.
So like we normally would? Is that the way it's being? Okay.
Yeah.
What is Vicinius going to do with the property? Do we know?
Well, again, this is part of their overall campus expansion, and as they acquire these pieces, they then put it into their entire campus. And with the utility easement there is generally used as circulation, and they'll have buildings either to the west or the east of this, or other types of facilities, and this becomes more of their driveway area. So they want it secured.
I've taken a look at the documents, and it looks like we are expecting fair market value from this transfer.
So the asphalt will probably still stay there then?
Well, it'd actually probably be taken out and made into the entire set, so it doesn't leave the bumps and the. There's not a lot of asphalt on that piece of street.
So how about maintenance?
That is all. Fresenius now will become the owner of the property, and we would just have rights to the utility easement underneath there. So if we do need to go in and do work on the sewer line, we would go in and do that.
But we retain the rights to do that then.
For the sewer line, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Greg? Just a comment. Congratulate Alan Jones for stumping the attorney. Nicely done. Thank you, Glenn, for the assist over there, too. Glad we found you the answer. It's a good question, clearly. I know, and I hope you like the answer. It was a great question. Thanks for asking that.
Ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
Then I would make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2019-31.
I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Stevens to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-31. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Vice Chair Traburka.
Aye.
Chair Nadolski.
Aye. That passes. Thank you, Greg. Next item is fiscal year 2020 to 2024 capital improvement plan. Who will be presenting that?
That will be Greg, and Lisa will be here for questions.
Okay. I think Greg
Thanks for being here, Scouts.
Thanks, you guys. I think Greg just found out.
I think, yeah, I did just find out.
That's Greg's surprise face.
Yes. So this is a proposed amendment to the existing capital improvements plan. What it is taking is items that had been funded but had not appeared in the plan itself. And in order to fund the projects, or actually use the funds, it needs to appear in the plan. The Planning Commission reviewed this and felt that the both items are consistent with the general plan and recommend approval as an amendment to the capital improvements plan.
Piece of cake. See? No need for alarm. All right, any questions for Greg? Okay, this also is a public hearing, so if you care to address the council on this item, please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record. Seeing no movement, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The public hearing is closed. Comments or action on the item?
I'll make a motion then that we adopt ordinance 2019-32.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember White to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-32. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Vice Chair Traburka.
Aye.
Chair Nadolski.
Aye. That passes. Okay, next item on our agenda, reports from the Planning Commission. I think Greg knows he's on the agenda now.
Greg just
12th Street Overlay Zone Building Height Amendment.
Okay. This, again, is a petition that had been filed with the city, and the Planning Commission has reviewed it and is making a recommendation to the council tonight for your consideration. What the request is to look at the 12th Street Overlay Zone and make some amendments to that. Now, the 12th Street Overlay Zone is an area that was created several years ago to give options along the 12th Street corridor from Adams to the mouth of the canyon. And this was done as part of a general plan of the 12th Street area and had been developed working with the neighborhood of what would be acceptable ways to approach with when 12th Street was widened from the 2 lanes it was to what it is today, and knowing there would be impacts to the properties and desires for new development. This overlay zone is created as an option to give property owners choices to make. They could either work with the underlying zone and develop based on it, or they could work with the 12th Street Overlay Zone and based on its standards develop under it and not require rezoning of the property to go in either direction. They could just make a choice. So in the overlay zone, certain standards were created to create a certain character along 12th Street. In that, there were height limitations, roof designs, limit on types of buildings, standards for size of the residential units, and limitations such as that. The petitioner asked that in a specific area between Monroe and Harrison on the north side, that a revision be made to allow taller buildings to happen along 12th Street. The reasoning behind that is they felt that with the hill that exists to the north, rising almost 100 feet above 12th Street itself, that there are no adverse impacts to adjoining properties because they are elevated way above. Whereas the rest of 12th Street the high limits are there for a specific reason, to keep in character with the neighborhood that's around it, because there are residential developments on either side of 12th Street that don't have that topography adjustment outside of that Monroe section. They also asked that a change be made in the apartments to reduce the required square footage to an average of 797 square feet for apartments, to allow flexibility to meet various apartment sizes, whether it be a studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and not limit all apartment units to a larger 2-bedroom style, because there are market demands for different types of apartments, not just a 2-bedroom. So the commission looked at this request at their May 1st meeting. They tabled it and asked for the staff to do some additional research of why some of the standards were created when they were. And they had a work session, and we went back and looked at that. And then the Planning Commission then moved forward with their with the petitioner's request. Now, again, in that little red dashed area, you can see the specific area that we're talking about. The yellow, you can see how the overlay zone applies along the 12th Street properties. And these are properties that front 12th Street. They don't address any other properties, only those that have frontage on 12th Street. So as the Planning Commission looked at that request, they took into consideration that with some of the roof requirements of the 612 pitch, that if someone is trying to do an apartment building and it's double loaded, meaning you have a central hallway and units on each side, by the time you get that width of the building, there's no way to meet the 612 pitch and stay within the 45 feet. And so as we looked at that and considered that, the commission felt it would be appropriate to raise the height along that north side of 12th Street to 58 feet, which would be the top of the roof. Now, I just might add a little thing in there. When we normally measure heights of buildings, other than in the corridor, we measure to the midpoint of a pitched roof. But to make sure we actually got what is the real height of a building, in the 12th Street corridor, it is to the peak of the roof. So you may be in another area and have a very steep roof, and the height is only measured halfway. So you could be well above certain height limits because it's only measured to that midpoint. So the commission looked at this and said, that doesn't seem to be an unreasonable request. Again, it still leaves the commercial at a maximum height of 30 feet. It still leaves the townhomes, which were at 3 stories and 45 feet for mixed-use apartments, in that condition also. Then the discussion of the square footage. The present standard was 1,000 square feet, and as the commission looked at the studies that have been provided, the market studies, the trends that are taking place, they felt it would be appropriate to reduce it to the 800-foot average rather than 1,000 square feet for every unit. So it changed from every unit to an average of 800 square feet to allow the flexibility of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units. And so that building would have that variety of units rather than just one type. And that was felt to be able to meet the needs. Also, as they considered that, the commission, this was not part of the petition, but the commission felt it would also, for the same reason, be appropriate to recommend revisions to the townhome sizes from 1,400 square feet as the minimum townhome size to 1,275 square feet. Again, noting some of the trends in the market, noticing also that some of that additional space raises the cost but doesn't give any real livable value to the townhome. I felt that this is also be an appropriate adjustment at this time to make that change. Again, the commission considered the topography distance, limiting these height revisions only to that section between Monroe and Harrison, north side of 12th. But the unit sizes apply to all the 12th Street overlay zone. And so those are important factors to understand. There was some discussion of would we look at having flat roofs on the apartments. But the commission, as we discussed it, the intent of the 12th Street overlay was to still try to keep a more residential feel, more, if you would entrance to the canyon, rustic feel, and have pitch roofs rather than flat roofs. We had discussed if we do a flat roof, would you make it landscaped? Because those homes that would look down on it would just see the big white pad, if you would. But the pitched roof was felt, no, that's more appropriate. That's what everyone sees when they're looking down on roofs. So they dropped the idea of the flat roof in the garden. Again, they give you the view of what it looks like along that north side. And in their recommendation 6.0, they recommend to amend the text of the 12th Street overlay zone to allow 4 stories and 58-foot height along 12th Street frontage between Monroe and Harrison, and then decrease the residential unit sizes to become averages for the apartments to be 800 and the townhomes to be 1,275.
Greg, could you address parking in there? You haven't talked about that.
So parking doesn't change. It still remains the same in the ordinance. Townhomes require 2 stalls per unit. The apartments, if you're next to transit stops and that, can reduce to 1.5 stalls.
Okay.
And that's how the present ordinance is. So no changes are being proposed in that parking.
They're not having an underground parking then in this?
Well, the parking is required to be under the building for the townhomes. It is not required to be underground for the apartments, but is required to not be visible from 12th Street. So in their concept, what they're looking at is building a parking area behind the building that wouldn't be seen from 12th Street.
So if we change this, does that change the other areas along 12th Street, or do they still have to comply with the overlay?
They still have to comply. They still have their choice. They can choose to develop under the overlay or the other zoning, which is on that property. The only thing this does to those other properties, if they're not on the north side between Monroe and Harrison, is it changes the unit sizes to averages rather than every unit has to be one size.
But it doesn't affect the other properties along 12th Street then?
Any other questions for Greg?
There was some questions, Greg, from the work session around the value of the property with smaller size units, like if the quality of the product or the value in some way might be diminished in smaller sized units.
You could look at it both ways. There may be some who would take advantage and say, well, if I can get a smaller unit and cut my costs, I'll do that. Others may say my real cost is in square footage, but my finished materials will still be the same, and so the quality would be the same, but they're cutting their costs in maybe wasted space from what could be sold to someone. It all depends your point of view and what you're trying to accomplish. So I don't have a direct answer because depending on what that developer wants to accomplish, it can go either way. I think in the long term, it makes it a mall more marketable and easier to fill because you have the variety of sizes for people rather than just one size to fit needs that may not exist for some people who want to live in that area.
Greg, you used the term trends. You talked about market trends.
Yes.
Trends by their very nature can be temporary.
Up and down,
temporary, fleeting, whatever. But do you see this trend or demand for smaller square footage being sustained?
I think most articles that I have read really talk about that the millennials and that generation is looking not so much to have the home to be able to spread out and do things because they want to go out and do things. They just want it as a place to sleep at night or keep very simple, low key, and flexible so they can do a lot of variety of things. And it even seems like with the older generations, they're looking at also downsizing in things they have and do because of maintenance and other costs. So I don't see it as a thing that's saying, it's just a quick flash and how some will go larger again. I think with land costs and everything else, it will be going more to this direction.
Okay. I had the same instinct, but I'm a fish biologist. You're a professional, so I wanted to ask. Thanks. Okay, any other questions for Greg? Before we receive, actually, we have a petitioner here too. Dino Pasqua. welcome to address the council for a few moments if you wish.
My name's Dino Pasqua. I work for Davino Group, and I think Greg said it very well. There's nothing really I can add. I appreciate your consideration this evening, and I'm just here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Thank you, Dino. We might get questions from the public, so
okay,
hang in there. Okay. We are accepting public input on this item, so if you care to address the council, Mr. Adams. Another stumper, right?
My name is Alan Jones. I have some quick questions. Mostly is regard to the slope stability of this hillside behind these proposed lots. The height of the building seems to be make sure that we have proper zoning for snow sliding off roofs. If you're going to 4 stories high, snow coming off the roofs can be very dangerous. And if it's a very tightly packed unit place, I would like to make sure that there's some open space for some of the kids and families so that they don't feel like they're packed in there like sardines with no way to exercise, especially for young kids. And again, all a safety matter. Slope stability and that sort of thing, I think, is I don't know if we have specific geological requirements for things of that nature, but when you get people that size and buildings that size, then it becomes at least a concern for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anyone else?
Hi, sorry about the flipping of the flip-flops there. My name is Chris Fillion. I live at 973 Sullivan. Thank you very much for taking the time to hear my comments. I'm just curious to know, it seems like increasing the height and decreasing the size of the units will overall increase density. And so I want to know what plans the city has in place for the infrastructure in the area on 12th Street. How are we going to deal with the excess traffic? Especially as we're talking about millennials here who are more concerned about human scale transportation. What does the city have in place to move that population around? Are we just going to have more cars on the road that's already pretty strained, or are we going to come up with other solutions to get people to where they want to go? So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fillion. No need to apologize for flip-flops. I'd be wearing them if it was acceptable for me as well. Glad you're comfortable doing so. Anyone else care to address the council?
Ralph Price again. And if we're starting to apologize for noise, I'll be here all day. So, with this chair. I just want to say that as I listen to this conversation and everything on heights and having the density of buildings brought back down from 1,000 square foot to 797. I was just going with my my apartment manager. The feds are coming to the place I live, and one of the things is I have a big chair because I'm a big guy, and. One of the things I noticed when I was apartment hunting, that as you go ahead and you find the developers that are looking to have things compartmentalized, so for the millennials, and that's we as people that are handicapped, people with chairs and like this, we suffer because they might move it in 1 inch or they might move it in 1/4 of an inch. Makes a difference for my turning radius. It makes a difference that I might be able to go and I have wide enough spaces that I can enjoy a living room and still have that factor be something I consider my home. Not just a place to go and, like he said, to sleep and then have a fridge in. I'd like the places to be for us too, for people that are handicapped, people that are aged, people that have chairs, walkers, and things like that, that we need that extra space. When these people are allowed the chance to be able to downsize, it's us that suffer. Because they're thinking of 2 legs. They're thinking of you guys. They're not thinking of us. They're not thinking of us and how it is for us to have to get up in the middle of the night and try to negotiate in the dark when it's hard in the daytime. But you have that space. 1 inch makes a big difference in my life. Makes it so I scar it, and I scar my home. I scar the wall behind me because I can't get that right there and I can't get turned. I want you to watch out for that. And then I heard livable value when we were talking about the slope of a building versus a flat top. I would love to be up on a flat top building and have a landscape and look out and see that I can't do it. Well, me on a pitch, I don't know. Better not make it too much because this chair, my tires aren't too good. Too much of a pitch, I'm going to end up down there. But a flat top, I can actually see the valley. I can look out and I can see far west and stuff. I'd like you to consider those type of things for people like myself that are handicapped, people with alternative vehicles, elderly people that have pushing a walker or walking with a cane. When you turn down a flat top, you're turning us down for the possibility of us going up and having the glory to be out and see that type of things. I just want to put that in your head so that you see that it isn't just a pitch. It isn't just a flat. It's a surface. It's a surface that all of us can enjoy or just you.
Thank you, Ralph. Think anyone else? Angel.
Angel Castillo. I totally hear Ralph's comments. I serve on the board for Roads to Independence, so as a planning commissioner looking at this, these are things that I do think of. I think it's important, and I would like to ask you to trust the expertise of our planner and trust the expertise of the Planning Commission with looking at these recommendations to allow a very varied size for rooms. It is not that all of the units are going to be 800. It is an average, which means that the developer is allowed to offer a diverse opportunity of housing. So we can have studios, we can have 1 bedrooms, we can have 2 bedrooms. I think that's a very different thing than saying we're going to build 800 square foot units. So again, looking at our growth as a community and looking definitely at the millennial population, the larger portion of our population is in their 30s and they need places to live. And it is easier for someone with a student loan debt to rent a studio apartment, pay down their debt so that they can move forward and in their job and career and hopefully buy a home in Ogden. So we right now as a city are lacking with large diverse offerings of small, medium, and large size units. And as Greg had pointed out, it is not just a flash trend. This is something that has been happening nationally for quite a few years. And as Vice Chair Chaburka brought up during the work session, a smaller unit is more affordable and that it allows a larger group of population to be in a neighborhood without spending so much money that they would find desirable. So again, I ask you just to trust your city planner. He's got all sorts of experience behind him, and trust your planning commission that this is why we recommended it on a 6-1, 6-0. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we've got some questions that need some answering. Greg, I guess maybe you can help with the slope stability and geotech.
Let me start that. Because the property is on a hillside, it does require that there be geotechnical studies done to look at slope stability. What the comment was made was, as you do increase in height and the weight, what does that do to cause the hill to move? So that is a requirement that before any development can occur, those studies have to be done and shown that the slope will not move with development occurring on it. The area we're talking about with the height is the flat piece, but even that still needs geotechnical studies in terms of can the soil carry the weight of the building itself. So those studies have to be conducted prior to any actual development taking place. The mixed use, the 12th Street corridor zone does require a certain amount of open space to exist in addition to the units and everything else. So those areas have a certain minimum of widths required so that there's enough area that you can actually do something with it. Those are all included into the ordinance, so those are all there and are not being changed by this request. And
Excuse me, Mr. Montgomery. So
yes,
can you expand a little bit more on that?
Okay.
Well,
what those spaces are exactly.
So what the 12th Street overlay zone says is that there has to be an area devoted for open space, a minimum of 30-foot width, and has to be then, however long the buildings are, it has to be that area also. You think of it as your rear yard in any zone is a minimum 30 feet. So this is saying you still have to respect that same idea that you're providing open space for those people who live there. And so however the building is laid out, they have to still also accommodate for that open landscape space for those type of activities to occur. So that's the slope stability. As far as the snow off the roof itself, those are all things that the building code looks at to take into consideration how does snow melt affect those people who are maybe on the sidewalk below that. So those are code issues. I'm going to jump over to the accessibility of the units. The building code actually requires there be a certain number of ADA units which have the wider door frames, which have the wider bathroom turnarounds and all that. So in any project over, I think that's over 4 units, there has to be a certain number of units set aside for ADA accessibility and to meet those wider dimensions that was mentioned. So this project would have to have that just as well, even though there may be square footage reductions. Those code requirements of door widths, restrooms, those type of things have to be built into a certain number of units in any project.
Is there a minimum amount of units that they would have to put in then?
I am not sure on the building code of how the scale works, but it's a sliding scale based on the number of units that the total project is. Then it says you have to have these many that are ADA accessible, and those are on ground floor units.
The developer is well aware of those requirements.
Those will all be things that will come up in the building code review of those needs.
Greg, Mr. Jones also had a question about open space. Is there a required amount of open space?
That was that item I mentioned about there's a minimum 30-foot
okay.
dimension, and that has to be going the full length of the project. And anything that is not used, and that has to be set aside as kind of the recreational space. In addition, anything that's not used by the building or parking also has to be landscaped. And that goes then above that minimum standard.
What about buffer areas? Are they included in the
The
development?
entire site is included in those standards.
Would the open space be right next to 12th Street, or is it behind?
No, it'd have to be behind.
It has to be behind.
Yeah, it has to be away from the traffic on the street. So there's, in the design, the way it works, you have the front setback buildings, and then when you have your next set of buildings, also now you need to have open space between those buildings.
Okay.
So that you just can't have building, you got to have building open space.
And that'll be an administrative process on your end?
That is in the code itself, yes.
Okay. And then
requirement.
Maybe you're already going to get to it, but the questions about transportation infrastructure.
So the other part of it is, and this is kind of the thing that we need to look at and consider, and that's why the 12th Street corridor plan is important. Because one of the things that is looked at is how do we tie transportation into density? And one of the things that we're trying to look at and why the 12th Street corridor became our first attempt at that is those areas that have multi-means of transportation, which have bus stops and other potential opportunities. Those are the areas you generally want to locate your higher densities at so that they can take advantage of the mass transit that exists. That's, as I mentioned, why there's a reduction of parking when you're next to a transit stop. And so those are all tied into that ordinance to address that you're looking at these corridors to try to address other ways to get people to move about rather than there's just one car, one person, to look at those other means of transportation, take advantage of those.
About active transportation corridors. So.
Well, and again, you do have the bike lane in our bike master plan. 12th Street is one of those areas in addition to biking that we look to have.
And Monroe and the river corridor, right?
All those connected.
Is there a transit stop on by that development?
There is. I'm trying to figure out where.
I know there's one on Monroe and 12th.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
I think
sure if
there's, before you
one
hit
in there.
Canyon at 12th.
But it's on the other side.
That's
of
on the other side, but on this side of the street,
I
that's
don't
where
think
you're at.
I don't think there is a transit stop there.
So.
Because there's not, it's bare ground, so they wouldn't have any reason to put one there.
Well, you have the transit signs there. That's why we're still trying to work with UTA to actually build stops rather than just a sign.
Okay.
But if there was density, there would probably be a stop.
Yeah.
I have one more question about the slope. If he develops his property, there is a canal that runs at the top of that ridge. He's got to make sure that that hillside is going to be stable. So he can't go dig into the the hillside as much as maybe he wants to do, but he has to keep that hillside pretty stable.
There are certain regulations that are in place, especially when there is a canal. After the incident in Logan several years ago, there was state law that whenever you're working with a canal into your property, you have to do certain notices and certain tests again to make sure you're not impacting that canal or cause something to leak as you develop along that.
And so will there be a test?
They would have to do those
soil
studies.
test on it?
They'd have to do those studies again to show that with the canal, that whatever work they do, they're not impacting the structural integrity of the canal, nor the soil capability to handle whatever might be put on it and cause it to move.
Because that would be a real problem if that made the canal unsafe in that aspect there.
It's a good point, Doug. I think there was loss of life in Logan, right?
Mhm.
That led to those standards.
Yeah.
Would there be a traffic study required by UDOT? Entry into 12?
Generally, for a driveway permit, they do require a traffic study to be submitted for them to determine the proper locations of access onto 12th Street.
Okay. And they'd be looking at issues of...
They look at turn movements and what trips be generated from the development. They may restrict turning east. They may set certain standards. That will all come out when their traffic studies are submitted to UDOT.
Will they look at the volume of traffic this would add to 12th Street and what the capacity of the current configuration is, et cetera?
Generally, with the design of 12th Street and what will be generated here, you really don't have a volume concern. It's going to be more impediments to movement.
Okay.
Those turning movements that take place, and how do you make sure they don't impede the flow of traffic?
Okay.
So the capacity is there. It's just, do you impede the flow?
There's still more steps that
Correct.
might help address that with more information than we
Yeah.
have. Okay. Any other questions for Greg?
I would think that with a flat roof, because of our winters that we have here, that would not be a logical aspect of it. And a flat roof usually has all your air conditioning and other units on top, so the public would not be permitted to be go on onto that roof in any aspect. But I would imagine that a slope roof would be more practical than a flat roof, and because of the winters that we would have here.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll entertain action. Thanks, Greg.
Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-34.
Second. We have a motion by Vice Chair Chaburka, second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-34. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
No.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chaburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye. That passes. Councilmember Stevens, care to comment on your vote?
As I stated in the work session, I'm just concerned about reducing the size of the residential. I think could be a problem down the road for us. So,
okay.
I'm just looking at the value of going in, and I want the best product that can be placed on that property. And I think when you decrease the size, you minimize some of those qualities.
Thank you. Okay, next item, rezone at 860 Washington Boulevard. Greg.
It's the Greg Show.
It's the Greg Show, yeah. Up, down, up, down.
Okay. This is, again, another petition that the Planning Commission reviewed and is now forwarding the recommendation on to you. And this deals with a specific property located along Washington Boulevard. It's not a corner lot per se, as there's a small little piece that's between it and going blank, Chester? Yeah. But there is a small finger that does go into that street. And so this request is to rezone the back portion of the lot to commercial. The front portion is already commercial, but that back portion is not. And what has happened is, as the commission looked at this, they looked at, okay, what are the existing conditions? Well, the homes that are along Washington Boulevard are non-conforming. They're all zoned commercial. They're all single-family home, but they're non-conforming. And the commercial zone requires certain setbacks, whereas the back portion, being zoned residential, would have a different consideration versus the front part. So if someone's trying to develop that lot, they have two different standards they're trying to work with for one project. And so rezoning the property eliminates that boundary cutting across the lot. How that took place is years ago when zoning was first created in 1951, there was just a strict 150, 200 feet, whatever it was, from center line of Washington back, and that becomes the zoning line. Didn't matter if it divided your property or not. That was how the zoning map was done. Over the years, we've tried through policies to say zoning should really follow property lines and not just divide a property. This is really a request to try to come in harmony with that policy of zoning following the property line rather than the strict standard that had been established back in 1951. As the Planning Commission looked at it, they looked at the Hillcrest Bonneville Community Plan, which talked about developing a Washington Corridor Plan. The guidelines in the community plan support rezoning this, again, based on that policy of not dividing lots by zone, and also the main frontage determining the zoning. So it would be natural that commercial would be the most appropriate zone for the entire piece of property. One of the neighbors came to the Planning Commission meeting and was concerned. They felt that the petitioner's property was actually another property that's just further to the south of this request. You can see that in that dashed blue line. There's a strange piece of property that goes almost a block back, at least 600 feet back in the middle of that neighborhood. And their concern was if that was rezoned to commercial, what impact it would have to all those homes that back onto it. Once we explained that that was not the piece of property being requested to be rezoned and showed the piece, they felt they were comfortable with the item going forward because it would not impact as if that other piece of property was being rezoned commercial. The Planning Commission then, in their recommendation to you, recommended 5-1 to approve the rezoning of the property, so the entire piece is zoned commercial rather than being split. The one no vote was based on the idea that without the Washington Corridor Plan in place, it's premature to see how do we really see Washington develop. Well, should it go back deeper? Is it adequate the way it is? And that was the one dissenting vote. So that's the recommendation to you.
Any questions for Greg?
And when will the Washington Corridor Plan be done?
I can tell you the ones that are.
Your timing.
I can tell you the ones that are before it. Not within the next 2 years.
On that property that does go back so far,
Yeah.
it's residential zoned.
It's zoned residential.
Clear to Washington.
No, the front piece, that 150 feet, is zoned commercial.
Okay, it's still a remnant of the old zoning
Right. So
practices.
if we,
Okay.
so you see that orangey shadowed area. So that's the commercial part, that
Right.
little stem. But then the majority of it is zoned R1.
This is basically just the cleanup.
This is a cleanup for that piece of property. Yes.
You know, I can see the concern that, you know, where this one, the zoning does divide the lot, you know, on that one. I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but I can see the concern. And I kind of hope we could kind of clean that up or something, because that would be a problem.
That would be a problem. But again, it'd have to be a rezoning, and that's where we feel the control is at this point, because the frontage on Washington is not big enough to develop anything.
All right.
Is there a concern of moving commercial in more residential areas than that small partial?
Well, I think there's always that concern of how far back do you go, what is the appropriate depth, and where do you make that transition between residential and commercial. In this case, I don't think that exists, because I think what's going to happen here is really going to be used for multiple family, which is also allowed in the C2, but wouldn't be allowed in the R1. And so it kind of keep what's developing along Washington Boulevard and allow that to continue to happen on these smaller lots. And the petitioner is here if you have any questions of him.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. It is customary to invite the petitioner up. Paul Christensen.
Mr. Chair and council members, thank you for having me. As it was explained, this was just rather, I wouldn't say arbitrary, but it was stuck, just 150 feet off of Washington Boulevard, which has left this very little sliver, which does make development of the property challenging when you have two separate zones, two separate setbacks. It's just one of those things I would hope that you would clean up, and I would hope that waiting for master plans from cities can be a very long process. So I don't think we have gambling allowed here in Utah on what the wagers are for how long it takes master plans to come forward, but I bet it would. I wouldn't want to say what the odds would be. So I would appreciate you not making it wait for a whole master plan process to go through. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for?
What do you plan to put on the property?
I'm looking to talk to the people on either side. Negotiating can be a little hard until you have all the zoning done and when you're doing the public format, but either commercial or multifamily would be the two purposes, which would have to be, if you didn't do this, then all you'd have to do is try to squish something closer to Washington, because you really couldn't do anything in that zone anyway, which you also have. I should add that there's already a buffer that exists that is required when you have a C2 against the R16. There has to be a setback that's there anyway. But the way it is now, if you're to really strictly follow the zoning, you have the whole R16 that you couldn't really do anything on. Then you have a setback from that within the middle of your property. So you really have a double, I'm being forced to have a double setback. So
you're talking to the person that owns the home on the
I
corner?
would, but I want to make sure I can't do that until I have the zoning.
That's a pretty nice home that there.
So
it's an older home.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
Any other questions for Paul?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This is an opportunity to address the council from the public if you have public input on this item. Okay.
Chair Nadolski, then I will make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2019-35.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-35. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chaburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye, that passes. I hope that was slightly less painful and time consuming than a master planning process.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next item is West Ogden Community Plan Amendment and Rezone at 2504 F Avenue. I'm going to guess Greg.
Yeah. So this, again, is another petition the Planning Commission has forwarded on to you for final action. And this is a request that's coming from Catholic Community Services. They presently are operating in the old Hopkins School. The elementary school had been there from 1918 to 1977. And then once it closed, it has been used for various uses over the years under provisions that allow reuse of buildings even though they're zoned residential, or in this case, part of it's zoned residential and part of it's zoned open space. But the opportunity has come to make some improvements to this property, and that's the reason for the petition request. They could operate and continue to go, but once they take the building down, they lose their right as any nonconformity. But the location that they're at, the services they provide the community are important, but the building has been difficult for them to function. It has multiple additions that have occurred to it. That means the layout's kind of disjointed. If you have a meeting going on at night, one area that's supposed to be secure can't be because that's where the restroom is, but a lot of different logistics that take place when they try to use the building. And also just the safety of the clients with the different elevation changes that take place. And so the funding opportunity has come to try to do something new on this property for the Catholic Community Services, and they want to stay at that location. And so rezoning is the way they have to go about it. However, the West Ogden Community Plan didn't identify this area as anything but residential. And so the first step is to consider a plan amendment to the West Ogden Community Plan. Based on your consideration of the plan amendment, then you could move forward with the rezoning request. So the West Ogden Community Plan was adopted in 2014, and it had both a plan map and vision statements. And of course, the facility is in operation way before this plan in 2014 was adopted. And so it's kind of overlooked the fact that it was there, and it would just be continuing there. So there's really no land use decisions that were made about potential for the future area. So you can see as it's shown as single-family residential on that land use map. In the vision statements, however, it talks about the idea of developing certain things in West Ogden, a community center that is established with existing facilities and agencies that are out there. Catholic Community Services not only helps those in need of food, but they provide training, they provide an area for the community to gather. They provide a lot of opportunities out there, and they're an important group, not only to West Ogden, but to the overall Ogden area in general. The other thing that the plan talks about is discouraging commercial or manufacturing developments that have outdoor activities. This, of course, does not have that and would not be really looked at as a commercial or manufacturing operation. And that look at environmentally friendly designs taking place. The age of the building and the things that need to be done to keep it going. A new building would definitely be environmentally friendly and being more energy efficient, and also help preserve open space. This is located at kind of one of those key areas that is a transition between the activities of West Ogden, the Observation Park, the West Ogden Park, and this is at that node of where all those things take place. And so it can become a possible development. Also, we made note that even when USU was looking at the area in West Ogden, they identified this corner as a community center. And even though they relocated Catholic Community Services to the other side of the street, the idea of this being a neighborhood center was important. And so as the Planning Commission looked at this, they felt it is appropriate to make an amendment to the community plan to identify a community civic area where the Catholic Community Services is located, and make a change to that plan map, and that change would be consistent with the policies that are found in the West Ogden Community Plan. So once the Commission looked at that, then they looked at the next step. Well, what do we rezone it if it's going to be consistent with the plan? And PI was the zone that was looked at as the first zone allowed that had this use being a permitted use, but also had design standards that could meet the quality needed for the neighborhood to show that the neighborhood is making improvements. It has limitations on retail activities. It has height requirements, setbacks, things that help make it be compatible with a single-family area. That would really make this facility work in the area it's at the locations it's at with the new zone. So the Planning Commission reviewed their policies. One we just talked about, the last one, zoning not cutting across properties. You can see half the property is zoned O1 and half is zoned residential. This would solve that problem by making it all the same zone. The primary frontage is establishing boundaries. It's interesting, though it's zoned single family, to the west are multiple family units. So this actually helps to make a transition between the multiple family, the park, the other activities to this community facility. And it reflects really the prevailing character because the building has been an icon to the neighborhood, both in terms of use and what takes place, and also that it's not a residential building, it is a neighborhood building. So the Planning Commission, in two separate items, which is important to understand, is that you really would need to make two considerations tonight. First of all, the 6-0 vote recommended approving an amendment to the West Ogden Community Plan to identify the Community Civic Center. And then also they voted 6-0 to rezone from R15 and O1 to PI. And the petitioner is also here tonight.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions for Greg? Okay. We are joined by Marisha Bosketer. Saw her.
So
There you are.
There, and over there.
Thank you.
Well, we're just very excited to be blessed. We have a lot of great organizations in our state that recognize the importance of what we are doing for our community out there in West Ogden and all of Ogden and all of Weber County as well. And so there are definitely a lot of safety and operational issues that we face out there, as well as constraints on kind of acting as a little bit of a community center out there. And so we're very lucky to be able to have the opportunity to replace it with a functioning, beautiful building that could definitely be a very much improved part of the West Ogden community. And just would love to have you guys vote in favor of helping us transition into this new opportunity for us, hopefully. So do you guys have, I don't know if there's any questions.
Before you sit down, any questions for Marisha? Can you tell us more about your plans for recreation in the facility?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a topic that the council's consistently concerned about or interested in.
Yeah, and right now our community room does get used for some other things. We've got some groups that will kind of come and do some social activities in the evening. We're used for a lot of different classes and trainings. Weber State classes come to our facility right now to do tours and actually hold their classes and bring the entire class down to kind of learn about our services. We've been used by Ogden City when they need to have public input meetings out in the area. We've had requests from different organizations and clubs like the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and those types of things to be able to use our building as kind of a facility to house something like that, because there's not a lot of different opportunities out in West Ogden. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, we are not really able to close off portions of our building from the community area right now. And so it's always been a concern that we can't maintain the safety and security of the warehouse area and the pantry area if we do hold something there that's in the evening or the afternoons or those types of things. So
okay.
I'm not looking for an event center, don't worry.
Hey, thanks, Marisha.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to receive public input on this item. If you care to address the council, please do so. Got a couple movers.
Ralph Price again. Now, this is one I had to rush up here, and I'm very, very, very want you guys' attention because this is very important. This young lady is here, and I'm glad they sent a pretty white girl to come up here and get you guys' attention so an ugly black man can sit in front of you and let you know that West Ogden is a minority section of town. West Ogden, you guys are the city council for Ogden, all of Ogden. And West Ogden is where we, the minorities, live. And that lady right there and the services that they provide, there are families that are alive today because of them. There's families that have medical aid because of them. There's families that are together because of them. There's kids that grew up to play ball in NFLs and different, all kinds of things, MBAs and all kinds of things. They come from West Ogden. I know this kid, my daddy had a station, and nothing I could have done if it hadn't been for West Ogden. But I'm going to tell you that there's a time right now that I put together a program that you guys hear a lot about because I'm a big mouth. I come here about Agape Outreach all the time. But let me tell you, all the money that I raise from corporate sponsorship, one of the first things I'm going to do is ask that my board put behind that woman's program as much money as they need to be able to do exactly what they're talking about doing right here in this. I beg you, not ask you. I beg you to pass this because of people of color. I beg you to pass this because of children of disadvantaged state. I beg you to pass this because of the pantry and the other things that are involved within the minority community on West Ogden. We don't have it as good over there in West Ogden as East Ogden does, but we're coming. And this is one of the things you can do to help us along the way, is you can pass this. You can let there be a nice building that they can close off an area, that we can sit on benches that are nice and pretty. We have art appreciation and those type of things to enjoy. We can't get across the bridge sometimes for the parades you got, but let me tell you, Catholic Services does some pretty good fun things over there. I'm asking you as a human being to pass this, but I'm begging you as a minority to pass this so they can continue to be the asset that they are to Ogden City.
Thank you, Ralph. Good luck following that, Mr. Jones.
Oh,
pretty good.
I was going to try and help him out if I could.
Thanks, Alan.
Hey, my name's Alan Jones. I'm up here just to make Marisha cringe a little bit. Hey, I actually support this idea. I think it's a good idea. I think Catholic Community Services does a good job helping a variety of people in a variety of manners. However, with one slight caveat, this has a potential to be a kind of a landmark building with some historical nostalgia for the neighborhood, and I would urge Marisha to take that into consideration when in designing a new one, to see if they could incorporate, if not the building itself or parts of the building itself, at least the spirit and the general feel of the building. Other than that, I approve.
Thank you.
And urge you to vote yes on this.
Anyone else care to address the council? There we go.
Angel Castillo. I have taken a tour of Catholic Community Services in the building, and if you haven't been walked through that, you can't possibly understand how they can't make that space work. That it is difficult to navigate, spread out, and you absolutely cannot have a safe public gathering there because there's no way to close things off. And while I am the first person to say, old buildings are amazing, let's keep them, having walked through that, it's just not going to work. And Catholic Community Services provides such an extreme service to our community, our entire city, not just West Ogden. There are people that participate in the food bank and call on them for resources. And, not even, they go beyond food. It's such an amazing organization. They are bringing on board people to handle legal counsel for immigration issues and violence issues, and so that people in our community have access to these resources. So it's a phenomenal organization. They need to have a new building. The existing building will not function nor meet their needs, and I know it's a bit of a stretch for people who don't want to change codes, but it really needs to happen for this building. Otherwise, we will lose a core anchor in our services to our community through our nonprofits. So I urge you strongly to adopt this unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Anyone else care to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing no more movement. Any other questions from the council or motion for action?
Well, look, if you're looking for a motion, I'll be happy to make that.
Sounds good.
Okay, I would make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2019-36.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-36. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Traburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye. That passes.
And I will make a motion also that we adopt ordinance 2019-37.
I second it.
A motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Stevens to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-37. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Vice Chair Traburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye. That also passes. Thank you, Marisha, for being here. Thanks for the good work you are doing and are going to do. And I hope you know Ralph by now. If you don't, you need to meet Ralph. Yes.
Chair Nadolski, I have
Yeah.
a quick question. Now that we've passed that, do we do any outreach to that community, or what will the outreach be? Because it is a change in the master plan or the community plan. Will we do any outreach? I'm just curious. Or Marisha, will you do it? Are you doing any outreach in that community? Just to let them know what's happening and coming and changes.
So when we consider a plan amendment, we go back to the community and originally try to get their input. So we noticed way beyond what we would for normal rezoning because we knew more people were involved in that community plan development. So the planning commission level, we try to get that. We did have one person come to the meeting, but that's really, I think everyone else is,
You got it at the planning commission.
yeah.
I'll hazard a guess. We often talk about outreach here, social media, 3 minutes here, whatever. I guarantee you Ralph's going to be wheeling and rolling through that neighborhood. That guy knows, I'm not lying. He knows every square foot of the city that we don't know. He knows it. And he is gifted with a big mouth.
I would think that Catholic Services could put on their either their information or their bulletin board there that what action has been taken care of at that time. I'm sure they could work something along those lines there that would disseminate that
I
information.
was just curious more than anything.
I think it's consistent with the nature of what is being proposed too, is to reach out to the neighborhood. Okay, if there's no other questions, next item on our agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council on any item. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Alan Jones. I like coming to these meetings so I can just air a little bit of grievances, and hopefully I can give you some accolades as well on occasion. My pet peeve of the week is traffic laws, speeding, scofflaws in operating cars. I've been really disappointed in generally how people drive in our town at times. There are a lot of nice people, and
Today I was sitting in front of my house and this fellow happens to be driving a Ogden City police car, and he does this comes speeding by my house. I live in an area which is 25 miles an hour. He's probably doing 35 plus, which many people do in front of my house. However, for once, his window was down and I got to yell at him, and he, in fact, slowed down. And again, I would like to say, how can we expect people to follow simple traffic laws, which is a safety matter? Speed limits are not for the driver, they're for the people on the side of the road. And people are trying to get around town and things of that nature. And it is a continual frustration for me to see people constantly breaking laws and the police themselves doing so. And again, he did not have his lights on or anything of that nature. I don't even know if he was on duty. However, I respectfully request that we figure out a way that we can crack down, and potentially one of those issues would be is to get some more police on the streets whose job is specifically and solely to enforce traffic laws. And in theory, we might be able to pay for those by issuing tickets and or something of that nature. And the one last thing about policing is it would be very nice if we could figure out a way to get a policeman walking through some of the neighborhoods, especially downtown, do the old walk the beat routine. I think that it would be a great public outreach and an opportunity for engagement between the public and the police in a non-confrontational and positive manner, which would, I think, give the police a little bit of a boost in their esteem and their respect from the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ralph Price. I'm back in one manner right here. I'm speaking about Agape Outreach. It's a program that starts with God. It starts with God being able to have an undying love for everybody. I've had the privilege of having been John Lewis Lopez and a few others. I invite Miss White, anybody, the mayor, anybody wants to go. I go all the way from the west side to the east side, north side to the south side in this, and I talk to the people that most consider, I guess, the underbelly. Most considered the disenfranchised, the most considered to be those that aren't quite into the society yet. But that's what I say is yet. You would be amazed at their desire to join in to becoming citizens of Ogden City, Weber County, that have their neighborhoods recognize them. As Ben well knows, we were at a gas station right down the road, and he came riding up on his motorcycle and was sitting there, and I had three around me. We had just got through a little conference for them to take some steps for themselves. Young man walked out, he asked for a quarter. I said, hey, wait a minute, you didn't even say hi yet. He said, well, they won't say hi to me. That's exactly what they feel. They exactly feel that they are known entities and they're not to be recognized. I want you to, and I want to commend this council. You guys have been just tremendous in your efforts to be able to make Ogden City for all. And you've been tremendous in welcoming me to come here, Mr. Mayor, and all that you have done to make it so we take 30 kids each time to the Raptors games. Lagoon is entertained. We've got all kinds of Ogden Regional. We've got Mountain America, Zionist Bank, and all these others wanting to make contributions. And we're going to do. The kids of 1st through 6th grade, each ward stake area, I've got them committed to make backpacks with papers and pencils in it, so the kids going to school that 1st through 6th grade will be prepared to learn. They'll be prepared to be equal to anybody else that's sitting there. Alpine Church and other places have quit doing business, but they have given me the clothes. We're going to be dressing them so they'll dress and feel appropriate. They've got people that are going right now, new people coming into town. Instead of becoming part of the negative of a drug addict or a homeless or anything like that, we've been able to open up and put them into a hotel so that the gentleman, he is working for a cement company. He gets his first check this Friday. He's going to pay me back the $250 it costs for a week for him to be there. His wife has decided to go on down to Weber Human Services, deal with her mental illness, and they're going to have $1,000 on Friday. Pay me back the $250. He has to put $250 in towards his house that he's getting, apartment he will be getting. That leaves him $500. We're going to teach him budgeting. We're going to teach him what it is to be able to have an income and what to do with it. I'd like to beg this council that if there's any way, shape, or form, you have any money that is set aside, that instead of just Ogden City Variance and Business Councils and backing some nonprofits like that, there's a new gun sheriff in town and everything too, and we're looking to do things, and we got people instead of tables to set up or chairs that we're helping. If there's any way there's money or you can have a special council that you can back us, I will promise you today, every cent of that will be back at you real good, because we have citizens out in Ogden that are standing up now and looking to be a contributing part of Ogden City. I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Groh. He is part of the housing division of Agape Outreach, and he's going to continue on something right here.
Thanks, Ralph.
Just for the council's information, I live at 3725 Brinker Avenue, and I am a citizen of the city of Ogden. Former city employee.
Tell us your name again.
I'm sorry?
Tell us your name again.
Jeff Glum.
Glum. Thanks.
Former city employee, as a matter of fact.
How's your retirement?
I don't know. Now you know.
You had one day.
But anyway, just some information. I'm going to go back to one of the comments about the 12th Street corridor scenario. One of the comments from Councilman Stevens was, he wants the best he can have. What does that cost me as a person? And I'm going to use just a year ago. What would it cost me to buy one of the townhouses down here on Lincoln Avenue? Any idea? $295,000. Okay, I happen to be one of these people that Ralph's talking about. No money. You want me to come up with $295,000? Okay, what's an average apartment cost you? Single bedroom, typical apartment today is $800 in the city of Ogden or more. No money. One of the challenges that we face is 1 in 5 children in the city of Ogden are what? Classified as poor. No money. $295,000, $800, $1,000. You have a family, three kids, typically 2 or 3 bedroom home. Now you're going up to what? Over $1,000 a month. Rents alone. Doesn't include food, doesn't include clothing, doesn't include the ability to pay to go to school. None of those types of things. So part of the challenge that Ogden faces related to that is the cost of housing. And part of that is some of the zoning things that we have in place that says you have to have 6,000 square feet for a building lot. So there needs to be, in my opinion, some consideration related to building materials, size of lots, cutting the cost down of housing rather than the cost skyrocketing, to help our program, to help the other nonprofits, and to help our citizens that there's 1 in 5 in poverty. And I'll leave that with you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Angel Castillo. That's actually a pretty good segue as to what I wanted to talk about. I went to the work session today, and I was thrilled to hear that you as a city council are starting to look at inclusionary zoning and what that might mean for our city. And it's been something I've been talking to you about since the very beginning of this year. I've sent you emails, and we've talked about it individually. And the city of Ogden can do nothing to control the price of a single family home. The market rate will be the market rate. But as a city, we can lead by example, doing what other cities are doing all across the United States, what Salt Lake City has done by signing into law inclusionary zoning. And we have developers that are willing to do this. We are not in a place where people don't want to build these projects here. And we have a median household income of $43,000. We are a blue-collar, working-class town. And we have a large, depending on the statistics that you look at, from 47 to 52% of people that are renting. And so we need to make sure that our workforce has a place to live. And the way to fix that as a city is to implement inclusionary zoning by implementing 10 units or more as a developer. That 25% is going to be set aside for low income and middle income, so that the people that work at your coffee shop, the people that work at Costco, the people that work at our sports factories that are making $11 an hour have a place to live. And it's not just what most people believe are low middle income. These are kids graduating with dual degrees from Weber that are going to make less than $36,000 a year with a student loan debt. This isn't just low income, those people. This is all of Ogden. We have to address our seniors that are going to be downsizing, that are going to need smaller apartments that they can afford, our kids when they graduate school so that they can pay down their debt, so they can become a homeowner, so they can save to buy a townhome or a condo or a single family home. It's growth is coming. We've all seen the Wasatch 2050 numbers. The state is growing at the rate of one bountiful a year. That's 144,000 people. The Salt Lake City Chamber of Commerce came here and talked to you in August of 2018 and presented a 2-page PDF saying growth, it's coming. Kempsey Gardner 2018 data. And we are tracking at exactly the same growth rate as Seattle, although our price point might be different in starting, the percentages are the same. We have to get ahead of the train that is coming. And these projects take 3-4 years to bring online, which is why we need to talk about it and why we need to bring inclusionary zoning into law to serve our community and our workforce before it's too late. Thank you.
Anybody else care to address the council? Okay. Seeing no more movement, comments from the mayor?
Just a couple quick things. It was interesting, the recognitions that we were giving tonight. That was kind of fun to recognize some people that I don't think get a lot of that. But it kind of reminded me that when I look at Marisha and what she's doing, when I look at the Pride Group and what they're doing, when I look at all the volunteers that came from Pioneer Days, Ogden, as we've talked about a lot, has been recognized as the second most charitable community in the United States when it comes to volunteer hours given and charitable donations given. And then Ralph and Jeff, what you're trying to do out there as well, giving of your time and energy and resources to do that. That's something I think we should all be really proud of. And so it's fun to have all of those groups come in and get recognized, and some of those that don't actually get a lot of attention be highlighted for all the volunteer hours they give and the good work that they do in the community. And then just on a personal note, I'll thank my beautiful bride, Katrina. Today is our 25th wedding anniversary. She's on a work trip, so it's not like I'm dying here talking about planning issues. Sorry, Greg, wherever he went. So she's not home anyway, but just a public call out to her for putting up with me for 25 years.
I was going to say.
Yeah, we almost gave
messed
him
up priorities, huh?
Yeah, but okay.
We almost gave him a pass, huh?
Yeah.
If she wasn't on a work trip, I wouldn't have been here.
Yeah, I hope not. Okay. Comments from council members?
You know, I said quite a few comments earlier, but I do want to thank each and every one of you for supporting the Ogden Pride Week and myself and I appreciate every one of you doing that, and you too, Mayor. So thank you.
The easy part.
Yep.
Anybody else? Just a quick comment to the administration. We got someone reached out to us about the Marshall White Center. When we lost the use of the pool, I know we partnered with the school district. The school district has needs for their pools too, though, and those needs for the students and the student athletes need to take precedence. They were built for a different purpose, and it sounds like, at least for this lady, and I've heard it from others, that the use of those pools, although better than no pool at all, is still not. It's difficult to meet the community need, and I don't know if there's anything we can do more to partner with the district to get hours more aligned with community need, but that immediate need aside, we have got to get answers for the Marshall White Center. That facility deserves attention, and that community that relies on it deserves answers.
We talked about that in department director today, and so we've got a timeline of some of the decisions that are being made, the studies that are being done on that, and a conversation with the school district that happened today. So I'll forward that information to you.
Okay.
So you can get back to that constituent.
Thank you. Look forward to hearing back on that timeline on the center.
I just want to echo and second those comments, Mayor. As you know, when I ran for office, one of my platforms was indoor recreation, and I've always said that that's kind of echoing some of the comments today from Ralph and from some of our other citizens. To me, it really is a matter of mental health, physical health, mental health for underserved communities. And, we could have not one, but we could have 2 or 3 community centers. I understand that resources are limited, but would really appreciate trying to get that ball rolling a little faster. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks, Mayor. I also wanted to just say, I know Ralph is the first to say it, and I'll just echo it because he and I say whatever we want to each other, but Ralph is blessed with a big mouth, but he's also blessed with an equal size heart. It would be really easy for us to be here to dismiss Ralph or anyone, dismiss the efforts of him and of Jeff and what I'm learning to be countless others. I would encourage you guys, if you have time, just spend an evening and walk around with Ralph. The things he's saying, I'll admit, when I first met Ralph, I wondered, right? But the more time I spend with him, the more people I talk to and meet, both with him and when I'm not with him. He is a perfect example of what you just said, Mary. You're right. Giving for others. And Ralph, thanks for being who you are, just doing what you're doing. But he's talking to people that we're not talking to. And so I hope that we're talking to Ralph so that we can, through him, and by extension from him, we're talking and hearing from others. I watched that interaction where he said, "Wait, you haven't even said hello." That gentleman, his name's Michael, right? He really didn't think I'd say hello to him. He didn't even. He has his back turned to me and say, "He's not gonna say hello to me." That's how they feel. That's how they think we feel about him. And when we don't help them, it only further perpetuates that. So time spent with Ralph is really grounding. It's a good experience to help remind us of who we serve, why we're here, and what we're doing. And there are people in this city that need help right now, all the time, a lot of help. So, Ralph, thanks for doing what you're doing. Jeff, thanks for standing side by side with him. And Ralph, I hope come Friday, maybe sometimes thereafter, you'll be walking to that podium soon. Yep. Okay. If there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember White to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned. We will be reconvening in a special agency meeting where we will take additional public comments and then adjourn into a closed executive session. We okay, Gary? Yep. Gives me pause when the attorney grumbles. This chair, when are the new chairs coming?
That's happening to you,
Good?
not me.
Okay.
He's got the broken chair.
Yeah, we're not done.
We gotta stay here a little bit longer.
Little.
Public comment. Roll call, public comment.
Okay. Do I need to hit this again? Okay. Welcome everybody to the Special Redevelopment Agency meeting of July 30th, 2019. Let the roll call reflect that all board members are present. First item on our agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the board regarding any topic or any idea. This is an opportunity to address the board on any topic. Bam! Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record, Ralph.
Name is Ralph Price. I came and I want to address you on a topic that I kind of harp on to, and that's just I got a meeting coming up with Public Works and Jay Louder. I understand that, but it's become evident and everything that we really need to look at our roads, our sidewalks, and there's just predominantly all over the Ogden City. There's places where that there you have to go. You run up to a curb. It's that big that you can't get into places. There's places that you go and you get to the end of it. You get one up on this side. You get to the end of it right there, and you can't. You have to go like this. I tried it right there, and I've got high centered every time, and I'm there 30 to 45 minutes before I can fly somebody down to help push me to get me going again. And we need to really look also at branches hanging down, bushes and all that that are hanging out on the streets and the entryways, the ways to go along the sidewalks. One of the things that I'd like to see addressed too is that there's a lot of events. Ogden's really on the time of festive time right now, and there's a lot of events going on. But all events are planned for 2 legs. All events are planned with a theme in mind. We've got to have the discussion. If nothing else, signs that bring the awareness up of people with 2 legs, of people with challenge, people with walkers, people with elderly, people with chairs. And let's go ahead and make them aware that we are there too. They will walk right in front of you, and you just have to stop. And you can't get started again. If there's a way that we can go ahead and we can bring the awareness of people up, we need to do it. Another thing that needs to be addressed is that all of our events that we do have, and none of them are geared towards people that are less advanced, blessed with prosperity and stuff like this, most of the people are in Ogden. A lot of people are. But there is an underbelly of people and a growing number of people that have been successful in the past because of the closure of businesses, the economic state, that do not have the finances to enjoy some of the events that are happening. Everything costs. After you're there, it's nice to walk out window looking at everything and everybody else buying something. We need to include into each one of these actions that we're doing as a city, people that have not the finances to be able to enjoy thoroughly what the event is taking place. Need to be addressed so that they can feel a part of it too. And I applaud this council for everything it's doing, but I want to just to challenge you that each and every one of you start looking instead of just the people that have a job, the people that dream of a job. They want lives too.
Thank you, Ralph. Anyone else?
I'd get bonus time. My name is Alan Jones. I was just writing some things down on my list, and some of the things of which Ralph just mentioned were sort of on my list. Not specifically, but maybe access for disability, though I completely agree we need to work on that always. But sidewalks and things of that nature, again, it's a safety matter. It's not just the people with the wheelchairs that are having problems with some of the sidewalks. My sister, who is a very able-bodied person, tripped on a sidewalk and bashed in her face a little while back because of the unevennesses of the sidewalks. The matters of dealing with trees and that blocking the sidewalks. I'm a tallish person, and I often get poked in the eyes by trees and that sort of thing. People parking, blocking the sidewalks. And then another quick thing is I think a thing to with the change of demographics and everything towards housings and everything, it might be time to start looking into matters of the teeny house movement and some of the zoning issues required for having a tiny house. They're not allowed. And that's kind of a problem in a lot of cases because teeny houses are cheap and being able to don't take up so much room and should be considered in some reasonable fashion to be allowed. Obviously, I understand some of the reasons why they're zoned out and everything, but in some areas and everything, I think they would be appropriate and enable people to afford to live in our fine town. And then to close, I'm going to give some accolades to everything because it really does appear to me that all of you guys really do care about Ogden like I do. And I think most of the people who do live here in Ogden, Ogden is a fantastic place to live. And in my opinion, has some of the most potential to be one of the truly great cities in the country, state, and possibly the world. Because of the people and people like yourselves. Thank you.
Right, that's a nice way to end.
Thank you, Alan. Anybody else care to address the council? I think it's safe to say we all love Ogden for sitting here every Tuesday night like we do.
And we all have to live here.
And we all what?
We all live here.
Yes.
We all have to.
That's right. Comments from the executive director?
Nothing to add at this time. Thank you.
Comments from board members?
I'd like to stand up for Jay and his crew. I think they go out continually. We could go for 100 years repairing roads and sidewalks. They're always going to be there. But they're out there trying to repair those that need to be repaired, cutting the limbs that need to be cut. I just think they're doing as much as they can with the funds that they've got. And but I think they do an outstanding job, and I believe our events are designed to address those who are handicapped, because we have to do that. And I believe some of the events are geared to those who are not financially secure. So I think they look into those things. I believe they analyze them and see, can we do it better? We can always do better. But I believe we're looking at those things, and so I stand up for Jay and his crew in trying to do those things that need to be done.
Council, any other board members?
Quick comment. I just want to say thank you to our friends that come and speak here, and especially to those that come and speak often. I really, really, really appreciate it. Since I've been on the council, I've always advocated for community engagement, genuine community engagement. And I work for you. So thank you for being here and for your participation. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. I'll entertain a motion on our next item.
I'll move that we adjourn into a closed executive session for one of the purposes listed.
Second. We have a motion by Council Member Heyer, second by Board Member Heyer, second by Board Member Blair to adjourn into a closed executive session. This is a voice vote.
Roll call.
This is a roll call vote. Thank you.
Board Member Blair?
Aye.
Board Member Heyer?
Aye.
Board Member Lopez?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Board Member White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Traburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye. That passes. Just a reminder, we will be adjourning from this meeting in that meeting.